Good evening and welcome to the November 21st South Burlington Development Review Board. My name is Dawn Philibert. I'm chair of the board and I'd like to introduce to you our members. Stephanie Wyman, Frank Kochman, dressed unlike any other time he attends, just saying. John Moscatelli, Quinn Mann, John Johnston.
No, that's my dad, but Charles Johnston. Yeah.
Charles, I'm sorry, Johnston. And from our staff, Marty Gillies and Marla Keene. This hearing is being recorded. Thank you for attending. There are a number of ways to attend. One of the ways is to attend in person, as some people have done tonight in the auditorium, and other people are attending virtually online, and people can call in. Regardless of how you attend, it's important that you register your participation either by signing in out back or sending an email with your contact information through the chat box virtually or via email to mkeene at southburlingtonbt.gov. That way, if you ever want to take any action, you will be registered as a participant. Let's see. Okay. First item on the agenda, emergency evacuation procedures. So in the auditorium, there are two doors in the back corner. In the event of an emergency, you would exit either of those and turn left or right, and you'll be outside. Agenda item number 2, additions, deletions, or changes in the order of agenda items. Hearing none, turn to item number 3, announcements and reminders.
So it sounds like some board members had trouble accessing pieces of the packet. Our online repository has been down for a week and a half now. If board members feel like there is a need, items can be continued to another meeting. Aside from the very next meeting, I don't think we have anything yet on the calendar, so we do have some availability. If only for looking at materials and making sure there's nothing else you wanted to ask, and we could continue it as though they were closed, but just in case, if anyone feels that way as we proceed tonight.
Okay, let's see how it goes, and if you have problems, raise those issues, and we'll figure out what we want to do. Anything else? Any announcements?
I don't think so, no.
Are there any comments and questions from the public that are not related to the agenda? Okay, let's proceed with our first application, which is agenda item number 5, continued sketch plan application SD 2314 of John Larkin Inc. for an approximately 40-acre existing PUD consisting of 270 residential units in 8 multifamily buildings, a 20,000 square foot movie theater, a 22,500 square foot restaurant and medical office building, and a 3,500 square foot restaurant with drive-through. The master plan includes 4 phases and consists of adding approximately 92,105 square feet of commercial space, including a 110-room hotel, approximately 281 homes in multifamily and mixed-use buildings, 6 homes in 2-family buildings, approximately 5 acres of programmed and passive open spaces, and extending a city street at 1,185 Shelburne Road. Is anyone on the board needing to recuse themselves or make a disclosure? Thank you, Stephanie. We'll see you back after. Okay, thanks. Anyone else? No. Okay, who is here for the applicant? Ella? Okay, thank you, Ella.
The light will turn bright green when it's on?
Oh,
There you go.
there we go.
Good, much better.
And I'm Greg Dixon from Krebs Lansing Consulting.
Hi, Greg. Okay, so anyone else on your team? This is a sketch plan, continued sketch plan, so we don't need to swear anyone in, but is there anyone else on your team you want to introduce?
Well, Joe Larkin will be here shortly. He's just running a little bit late, so
Okay,
he might
sure.
pull
All
up a
right.
seat.
Okay, so we are going to look at the staff memo, which is very brief, and then it refers us to some items 9 through 14 in the original staff report. So, do you have any introductory comments before we start with the memo and then move on to the staff report?
No, I don't
No.
think so.
Okay. All right, let's look at the staff report. Number 1, after completing review of this memo, staff recommends the board review, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we got that. Number 2, so does this pertain, let me read it. Staff recommends that the board discuss the impact of potential future uses at that site on the master plan and especially consider whether there are any uses that, if proposed, would require a master plan amendment, or if there are any plausible building modifications or expansions that would require a master plan amendment. For reference, Article 15.8.06E2 outlines the standards for substantial amendment to a master plan. What are your responses to that?
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. I thought we were going over 9 through.
Well, I think the staff recommendation was to look at the memo first and then to move to the staff report. So this is a question pertaining to future uses and if there are any plausible building modifications or expansions that would require a master plan amendment. Maybe Marty can.
Sure, yeah. So we prepared a little 2-page memo, just kind of summarizing last meeting's kind of contents, and identifying any things that we wanted to discuss further. So just one thing that we wanted to bring up in this memo was last meeting was the first time the board had heard of the plans to modify the Palace 9 Theater to become an ice rink. It didn't sound like there was a ton of, I guess, alarm about that, but there was a pretty lengthy discussion about parking and what kind of constitutes a master plan amendment, as opposed to just, a change of use. So I just wanted to flesh that out a little bit and hear from the board, kind of what their thoughts are. So in the memo, we have the language from the LDRs, and it requires full master plan review and approval for any development that represents a substantial change deviating from the approved master plan, and it identifies 3 ways that you could represent a substantial change. So I guess the one I'm most curious about is C here at the bottom. Proposed changes that significantly alter the parameters and associated impacts of development at build-out, including an increase in PM peak hour trip ends. And so I just wanted to get the board's take on how they are reading that, and how careful you as the applicant should be as you're looking to redevelop that movie theater site and potentially any other sites on the property moving forward.
Thanks, Marty.
So I'll just say that one piece that jumped out to me as far as potentially needing a substantial change amendment was the one that Marty noted on the PM hour trip ends. I think we discussed last time that it sounded like the movie theater was going to kind of, or the replacement of the recreation center was kind of going to be less traffic, less in the evening. So it seems like that wouldn't trigger. And
Yeah, that's correct.
And so you all seem pretty confident that that's what's going to be moving forward. So I think we were just kind of looking for confirmation on that and the awareness that if it does end up pivoting, this gets revisited, right? So if there is a use that's maybe still hanging out there, that's a potential that might trigger under this amendment requirement for something to think about and maybe kind of hold for until that's like confirmed, so you guys don't have to go back and do an amendment. So I don't know if there's other potential uses that you guys kind of can state at this time, or if that one's really the only one that's being looked at.
That's the only one that I'm aware of. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Quinn.
The 6,000, it looks like, at least as I read it, you're leaving 6,000 square feet of the theater undeveloped, which holds out a pretty lively, pretty real prospect of some use of that space that will impact both parking and certainly trip ends. Now, but on the other hand, I'm not quite sure I understand the staff's concern. So it's vacant. If they want to do anything with it that's going to impact trip ends, they come back. As long as they understand they can't do it without an amendment to the master plan, then is it a concern right now? That's the question I have for Marla.
And Joe Larkin, welcome.
Good evening.
Yeah, I don't think it's a concern right now. I think the increase in PM peak hour trip ends is the most black and white of all of those criteria, A, B, and C. But like, for example, B, proposed development that significantly alters the pattern of development, that's a little bit more subjective and sort of up to the board. And so I just kind of wanted to, flag that for you, as
Right.
I think that we had agreed 2 weeks ago that leaving the movie theater building as is and changing the use inside wouldn't alter the pattern of development. But I wanted to make sure that you had the opportunity to speak on what that might look like, if you wanted to.
But they have not. Okay, I mean, I don't want to drag this out.
Sure.
You understand that if you want to do anything with that 6,000 square feet that has a trip end impact of any significance, you're going to have to come in for a full revision of for a full process for altering the master plan, and that's it. That's the end of that discussion.
Okay. Thank you. So any other comments or questions from the board before we move on to the staff report? Not hearing none. I'm going to find it. And we're talking about starting at page 8, 9 through 14. Okay, comment number 9. This is regarding crosswalks. Staff recommends that the board discuss with the applicant the optimal distribution of pedestrian crosswalks across Fayette Road, given the factors noted above.
I think we discussed this.
Oh, sorry about that. I think we discussed this last time. We will be performing the traffic analysis for the project. Part of that is pedestrian egress and pedestrian traffic. At that point, I think it'll give us more information to identify those locations.
Okay, so we'll
we're
look
happy
forward to
to-
hearing from you in the future about that.
Yep.
Great, thanks. Comment number 9. This is, nope, that's the same one, sorry. Comment number 10. This is about the turnaround. Thoughts about that comment? I can read it. Staff recommends that the board confirm with the applicant whether the infrastructure described above is proposed to become public, and that the board discuss with the applicant plans for compliance with the DPW requirement for turnaround.
So yeah, I mean, I think we intend to have Real Road become a public street.
I'm sorry, we didn't hear what?
we intend for Real Road to become a public street.
Okay.
The purpose of it at the end is to connect into Slip Road, which will then exit out onto Route 7, or you could loop back into the middle street. So there's not, we didn't feel there was a need for a dead end turnaround.
Okay.
I don't
Could
know
you
if that
pull
answers
your
the,
mic closer, please?
without putting it in my mouth. I believe,
Hear what you have to say.
yep, I believe that answers the question. I don't know. As we
Yeah,
were,
I think what so the blue comment came from the Department of Public Works, Tom, and I guess he was looking at the plans and the phasing and was thinking at some point we as a city will be plowing Real Road. Just was curious like what the plans were in the interim to be for turnarounds for plow trucks. He didn't note that there were any provided.
yeah, I mean, we can look further into that with Tom. I'd be happy to work on that with them. We haven't developed the construction scoping yet at this point, but I think we'd be more than willing to work with DPW on that sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah, just wanted to flag that
Yep.
as Tom gave that to me.
Questions?
So the intention is for vehicle traffic to go onto a public collector road, right, which is Real Road, and then exit onto a private road, Slip Road, which can only exit onto an alley or onto Route 7,
Yeah,
or turn around, I guess, on Real Road and come back the other way.
yeah. I mean, I think there's many different ways to move around those roads.
Does it, this is a question for Marlon and Marty, because I don't know the answer. Does it matter to us, that
Frank,
is,
pull your mic in.
yeah, does it matter to us enforcing or applying the LDR, whether it's built to public road standards or not? In other words, that is simply their call. If they want a public road, they build it to public road standards. Do we care under the LDR, one way or the other?
I think the city, without an appropriate plow truck turnaround, would likely not take over maintenance of Real Road. So there would have to be a plow truck turnaround sort of at the end if they were going to be taking care of only this stretch, because otherwise they would have to continue out on Slip Road out to Shelburne Road, or as Charlie noted, on the alley. So Real Road does have to be constructed to public road standards, but we may just not take it until it connects. And that connection, given sort of the status of Lakeview Commons being that they have no interest in redeveloping, that could be a very long time. So if they would like us to take it over, there's probably going to have to be a plow truck turnaround.
Okay.
And Marla, previously I remember you expressing concern about the head-in parking on Slip.
Right, so we wouldn't accept a public street with head-in parking. Queen City Park Road notwithstanding, or I guess Central Ave. We wouldn't accept a public street with head-in parking, so Slip Road as they have it could never become public, which is fine, provided that Real Road is, connects to something.
So I think plowing is a conversation we can continue with DPW.
Sure.
Okay. Questions? Move on. Number 11, staff recommends the board discuss with the applicant the challenges and opportunities presented by the topography of the proposed neighborhood park and identify what changes, if any, should be made to the park design at the next stage of review.
Yeah, I think what we have here is pretty rough and schematic.
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. What we have here so far is like just rough and schematic. We're happy to think about other opportunities that the topography allows, like viewpoints with benches, connections between the different amenities. I think it's likely that the community garden, if that stays, would shift so that it's not shaded by the existing evergreens. So there's definitely work that needs to be done through that. But if you guys have any specific comments, we're happy to hear them.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry. You're going to have to pull that in. I don't think I have hearing loss, but it's just muffled a little.
Sorry.
Speak up, please.
Yeah, I mean, we're happy to hear comments from you guys if you have any specific input as we go through this process, but it's just kind of schematically laid out for now.
Okay. Any comments about the topography at this point?
By topography, you mean essentially hills and dales,
The
or
lay of the land.
Was this comment for the community garden or for the pocket park?
It's for the just kind of that whole parcel there that starts with the community garden and then goes towards the railroad tracks. That whole thing is proposed as the neighborhood park, and I just flagged it as sort of a interesting design, and I wanted the board's feedback on sort of what they saw there and if there was anything specific that they wanted to see different, or if they were open to kind of letting the applicant work and produce something. I know that 2 weeks ago we had talked about specifically the two water features and their utility and how they would function and fit in with the site. And so Jeff had expressed some interest in maybe exploring how to incorporate those ponds into the park, but noted that it was sort of limited based on their use as stormwater ponds and they're not like for paddle boats or anything like that. So just kind of how to work with the park to make it less of a hill with stormwater ponds on it and more of a park that people want to be in. And I know it's schematic right now, so there's a ton of room to work, but I just wanted to flag this in case you guys had any comments or.
well, what does that piece of land look like now? I mean, is it flat? Is it elevated? Is it sloped?
Joe Larkin. I might recommend a site visit or a site tour for everyone. I think it's a real, I'd say, opportunity to really think about design. But it does have slope to it. It's beautiful. It's got natural trees existing. It's got a meandering path down through it. The ponds, one of them is aesthetically not great, but the other one could be made to look and feel like a place you want to sit around. I would I don't know if that's appropriate, but I would think we'd do a site tour before. If you haven't been down there, it's worth walking down there.
Well, which is the one that could be made into something you'd want to sit around? The one that's closer to the green, or the one that's further?
They both
away?
are labeled existing stormwater. So so the one on the left, as I'm looking at it, Frank, is sort of a lower hill down. It's a frog pond. But it's been there a long time. I think there's potential there for and I don't want to rule out the other one, but to my eye, that's more interesting.
So would it make sense for us to do a site visit?
Well, what will we contribute? I mean, that's the question.
Well, a better understanding of the topography.
So there's a couple options. The board can do a formal site visit, which has to be, basically this meeting would be continued to a site visit. And we would determine that date and time now and make that announcement. Or the board could go out as individuals. And, at their whatever between now and the next time we see you guys. Do you think there's merit to you being able to be there and point out specific things? If so, then we can do it as a scheduled thing. But if you think it's like pretty obvious what you're looking at,
I think it's pretty obvious. You just kind of go for a walk down the hill and see if you've got input. I think
Well,
that's a good
I
step.
mean, Marty, have you been there? Have you looked at this site?
No, I've never been down in road. I was on the Farrell site visit with all you on the bottom side of that, looking up. But
This area we're looking at, have you been there?
no.
All right, because I'm just wondering, based on what Joe said, if you're walking out of the park area and then you're getting to something basically that looks, I don't mean to be cute, but that looks like a sewer, basically, then that's not so desirable, and we'd like to see, I guess we'd want to see something done about that. In addition to making the other larger pond to the west look nicer, maybe some thought should go into, I take what you're saying, Joe, is essentially a warning. This is not so hot down there.
No, actually, I might be saying the opposite. There's a lot of potential to it. I think that we want to get it right. It's a critical part of this whole development is to get this park. This has to be done right. And I want
And
input on
particularly
it.
because it's immediately adjacent to the public part, you don't want people to go like that when they.
That's right, and we're suggesting we do plantings thoughtfully around it and to make it better. But I see a lot of opportunity and potential there. We would love to get input, but I think for our community this has to be done. This is where we got to focus on. This has to feel like a park. This has to feel like a place you want to be. So
Okay, so do we now have, or will we see a landscaping plan that includes improvements to that near pond?
That will be part of the phase 1 site plan.
Be included in the preliminary?
Bring the microphone over so we can hear you, please.
So right now, the plan is for that to just be a part of the phase 1 site plan submission. We do have a couple photos of the area, and we could get a little bit more detailed for the master plan, but I probably wouldn't.
Well, we're talking. Are we in sketch or master plan?
We're in sketch.
Yeah.
All right, we don't have to push it any further now.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's plenty of time to see
So I
that.
think what I'm hearing though is that the board would like to see more details at the master plan level, not at the PUD level. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I would like to. I would be for just us individually going there. It seems like a easy spot to look at. Come with more details at the master plan level after we've looked at it with your proposal, and then something for us to respond to after we've seen the site too. So I think that would be a good direction.
makes a ton of sense. Yep.
Any other questions about that?
So just to point it out, this is the existing building. Oops, this is the existing building. So if you go in here, there's sort of like a drive aisle. If you park sort of in the back area, and then you shoot straight down till you're past the back of the movie theater, then you're in the park.
Okay,
Just to orient everybody.
perfect. Okay. Thank you. And we're free to do that.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, number
Yes.
12. This is about design standards and architectural themes. Staff recommends the board discuss with the applicant how specific the design standards regulating architectural themes and features for the various phases of development should be at the master plan level.
Marty, or Marla, what do you mean by that exactly? You mean
It's Marty's.
it's Marty?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Give me an example of what you're talking about.
right, so there's going to be several buildings proposed here. I guess my assumption in looking at this project is that the buildings that are near each other, so the one that exists now, the hotel next to it, and those ones all over there will sort of all relate architecturally, and then the ones that are going in behind Old Orchard Park, the new ones will kind of look like the ones that are there now. TBD maybe on the micro units and the duplexes up top. So we have a couple different themes going, but they're supposed to, interact with their immediate neighbors. And I guess there's pros and cons of getting too heavy-handed at this stage. If we leave it like wide open, then we're kind of spending a lot of time at each site plan. We're going to have, maybe 7 or 8 site plans, and we're going to be talking about architectural details. We could just now give them some parameters at the master plan level and say, stay within this and we're happy. Or we could kick the can to the site plan and review it at each site plan. That's kind of where we're at, and that's the decision the board has to make at this time. Or I guess not at this time, this is a sketch, but at real master plan, you have to decide how much regulation you want to impose at the master plan level.
So we're looking for some uniformity but variation, correct?
Yeah.
Harmony. We're looking for harmony.
I'm sorry, Frank?
We're looking for harmony.
Harmony, yeah.
So they, just so I'm understanding, at the master plan stage, they do have to propose some design standards, but there's not like a bullet point list of like what that might be. It's kind of up.
It's
to
kind
them
of up to you. It's up to you to decide how in depth that list is.
Well,
yeah.
if they're going to need height waivers, for example, should that be a master plan discussion or a site plan discussion?
Yeah, we talked about waivers earlier, and I I think that the thought was that we could grant the side setback waivers at this time, and then anything else would come up on a site plan by site plan basis. So that's kind of that's where we landed on the waivers. I don't know if that plays into your thoughts on design standards, but
Questions?
Nope. He answered the question.
Thank you.
you think that site by site is fine as far as
Yeah, because what happens when we get to site plan anyway, if they don't like what they did at the master plan, they're going to be, it just
right.
protracts things unnecessarily. You know, what matters is when we get down to brass tacks.
Sure.
We know
Yeah.
it's about this big and it's about this high, more or less. You're going to tell us, right, at the master plan level. Then if there's a real argument, it'll be at the site plan level,
Okay.
I think.
In their
Anybody
packet,
else?
though, they did provide like a architecture character page, right?
Mhm.
It all generally looks like it's
I think Marty did a good job explaining kind of what we're intending to do. Sort of those buildings up front match that area. Orchard Park matches an area, and then a little bit to be decided on the other aspects. So
I would like to ask a question. I guess most concerned, at least initially, well, I am about the mini units on the, whatever you call them, the tiny units on, but putting that aside, so talking about the massive buildings closest to Shelburne Road, are you intending that they will generally be of the character and quality of the existing corner building on the corner of Fayette?
Yes.
Correct.
All right. Who's your architect for that? Do you know?
We use a number of architects. I haven't decided who the architect will be for the next phase. But Marcus Parkinen had designed the Residence Inn, and he is out of New Hampshire, but he's a hotel-focused architect.
But who was the fellow? I can't remember his name. Who was the fellow who was in here who did the quarter one?
1185 was designed by Greg Rabideau, Rabideau Architects.
Right. You're not going to use them?
I haven't decided.
Okay. Because he came through, I thought.
Beautiful building, we think. Yes.
Yeah. Charlie, were you finished? Did you have any other questions?
no. I was just pointing out that in their packet they have examples of what the structures will look
Right.
like, and it looks similar to as they are currently.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd be happy to pull that up if it was a page reference. It's just loading really slowly for me.
For some reason, my packet that I downloaded has 42 pages. Yours only has 25.
Oh, that's because I opened it in individual PDFs because it's a little bit faster loading.
Yeah, it says it's
Okay.
master plan architectural character.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I'd add is I agree. I think the building on the corner, the Bliss B building, is done very nicely.
Yeah.
The movie theater is a box.
Yeah.
So I guess I'd be looking for more of what you did on the corner than the way the movie theater looks now, as kind of a barometer.
Are you having any thought of maybe pressing John's point, maybe replacing the movie theater with something? Or are you going to keep the shell?
I think there's a chance to add some detail to the movie theater and bring it back to life. I would love to repurpose that box if I think we can. And we have some designs I think that will be front. Are they in front of the city yet, or are they coming in front of the city?
we
designs
have
for
the floor
theater.
plan. Yeah.
Yeah, and some
site plan.
renderings for that. We're happy to bring those to our. We'll roll those into the next master plan. I think that we're trying to bring it to the character of where we want to be.
We good? Okay. Number 13. This is staff recommends that the board discuss the requirement for wetland delineations to be relatively recent with the applicant. This requirement was included in the staff comments from February 2023, but was not highlighted in red and therefore may have been missed by the applicant.
So wetlands were redelineated by Dory Barton's Arrowwood in this summer.
Okay, good, thank you. The last comment is number 14, street design. You've read it, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was I think we're very open to the idea of expanding the sidewalk north of Building 3 to 10 feet to match the width of the sidewalk to the east and the width of the rec pack to the west. I think that was a good suggestion. I don't
How
know.
does that fit with your setback waiver request?
We already had enough space in there to make that work, and we just had to reorient some bike racks, so that's not an issue. Or I guess I think we were requesting. Sorry, I understand your question now.
Excuse me for interrupting you briefly, but Marty, what are you calling a wide sidewalk? What do we have that we think is desirable in this area for commercial sidewalks, downtown sidewalks, so to speak?
Did you put a finger up? Okay, yeah. I think the rec path was 10 feet, and the sidewalk in front of Building 1 is 10 feet, if not wider. So I think we had spoken maybe 2 meetings ago about, or maybe even over email, about expanding the one in front of Building 3 to match the 10-foot width.
So,
Yeah.
and that works with the setback after you theoretically get your waiver, you can still manage a 10-foot
Yeah, I don't
sidewalk?
think that'll be a problem.
We'll prioritize that 10-foot path and
Yeah.
build the building to it.
Okay, is that what we need in terms of number 14, Marty?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we were just looking at the whole street, so sidewalks, but also road width, and just, checking in with you to make sure that you felt that the applicant's widths and speeds and all that stuff were, commensurate with the scope of the development.
Board? No objections, no concerns? Okay. Great. So that brings us to the end of the staff report. So now let's take a pause and ask if there's any public comment. Please step up if you have comments. Let us know your name, please.
Kathleen Easton, Holmes Road, and I just have a comment and a question. The comment is that in that park area that has been sort of suggested at this time, if the applicant, when they move ahead with this in their more detailed sketches, could indicate more about the stormwater runoff, and I know that that's a requirement, but it seems like for those of the property owners to the west, we're the recipients of all the water that comes downhill. And if the Farrell project goes through, the Larkin project goes through, that park might be a good place for rain gardens and for other attenuating features. So that's just a comment. Now the question, it's a sort of a regulatory thing. I heard you all discussing a site visit, and they're very instructive, very useful. I assume that would have to be notified as a public meeting. But then I heard someone say something about that the DRB members could go just on their own and walk it. So I just, from a regulatory standpoint, I was wondering, how does that, if you could explain to me how that meets the standard for site visits? Would people be going one by one? If you have up to 4, then does that constitute a quorum? Because I'm sure you want to avoid any conflict with the ethics standard that everybody has to sign about ex parte communications, and the public would probably want to be present. So I'm just curious as to how you'll accommodate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Don. Well, that's a good question. What What did the LDRs tell us about that?
So
I mean, I think that,
you'd be going by yourselves.
yeah, we'd be going by
individually.
ourselves, so it's fine.
Just
but-
like any member of the public could go anywhere by themselves. They're individuals that live in our community and can go anywhere by themselves.
But if 4 of us go, as if 4 of us won't go, how about we pledge that 4 of us won't go as a gang?
I don't know how much you all hang out outside of DRB meetings, but I don't suspect it's
Unless we know,
often 4
unless
at a
we
time.
notice a site visit. Right?
All those in favor of not hanging out as a group.
I think I would say we're all aware of the requirement.
Yeah.
And we know that we'd be violating the statute if we were to do that. So I don't think any of us would. I certainly wouldn't. I don't think any of my colleagues would either.
So I'm taking from that, we'll all meander down on our own and view the space.
Or not.
Or not.
Good, right.
Yes. Are there any other public comments? Any online? No? Okay. It sounds like, so board, do we believe we have enough information through the sketch plan to close the hearing and deliberate on it and move on to the next phase?
I move we close the hearing.
Okay, second.
We don't vote on sketch.
Oh, okay. So how do we decide to close?
You just announce that the meeting is concluded.
All right. Are we comfortable concluding? Okay. The meeting is concluded. And we will see you back here next time for the next phase of this.
So the next agenda item is to determine when their master plan should be heard. And so this is a discussion. So you want to open it, and then the discussion is, given the feedback that they've received and how much time do they need to make adjustments to the plan to respond to that feedback and be ready to come back.
Right. Because we can't hear both the sketch plan and the master plan at the same hearing. So what?
So you
given
want
our-
to start by opening the master plan, just like you would read out the project description.
Right. Okay. This is continued master plan application MP 2301 of John Larkin Inc. to establish a master plan for an approximately 40-acre existing PUD consisting of 270 residential units in 8 multifamily buildings, a 20,000 square foot movie theater, a 22,500 square foot restaurant, medical office building, and a 3,500 square foot restaurant with drive-through. The master plan includes 4 phases and consists of adding approximately 92,105 square feet of commercial space, including 110 room hotel, approximately 281 in multifamily and mixed-use buildings, 6 homes in 2-family buildings, approximately 5 acres of programmed and passive open spaces, and extending a city street at 1,185 Shelburne Road. So I think the suggestion from staff is that we continue this to a date to be determined in consideration of our former discussion, and set that date now, which would be what?
So we had a quick discussion with Marty before the meeting of maybe looking at the 3rd week in January, that meeting. I believe we talked about that.
Yeah,
if
yeah,
that would work
so-
for everyone.
Like the 2024 Derby schedule hasn't been set yet, but there is a meeting tentatively scheduled for January 16th. That'd be the Tuesday of the 3rd week in January. They will be discussing the schedule tonight, and it's possible that could get moved to a Wednesday, but it would be also up that 3rd week in January.
Okay, thank you. So, do I hear a motion to, not continue,
Yeah, to continue.
to continue, okay.
I would say I would call it the second regularly scheduled January meeting.
MP 2301 to the second regularly scheduled meeting in January, which is around January 16th.
So move.
Thank you. Second? Thank you, John. Any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll see you back here on January 16th or close to that.
We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And then for anyone who's watching in the audience, that decision on whether it'll be the 16th or 17th will be made tonight, and we'll have that posted, if not tomorrow, certainly early next week.
I'm going to ask for a brief bio break. 5 minutes.
All right, we'll be back.
So, all right. All right. Welcome. Agenda item number 7, continued sketch plan application SD 2313 of Boss Babes LLC to subdivide an existing 3.05 acre lot development with an office into 2 lots of 1.24 acres, lot 1A-1 and 1.81 acres, lot 1A-2, for the purpose of developing a 9,100 square foot of veterinary hospital on lot 1A-2 at 10 Mansfield View Lane. Are there any recusals or disclosures? Who is here for the applicant?
Dave Marshall from Civil Engineering Associates.
Ann Culp from Boss Babes.
Sam Beal, Duncan Wisniewski Architecture.
Thank you. So, I have to find it here. I have to say, I was here the last time you presented. I drove those roads. I am so confused about what all the road stuff is about. And we heard public comments from a neighbor of yours, but I need someone to give me, maybe I'm the only one who doesn't get it, but an overview of what is this road stuff all about. So I'm going to ask Marty if he could do that, please.
Yeah, I think there are 2 separate things going on.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is inner lot connectivity. As we sort of talked about for a while, 2 weeks ago, the LDRs have, in several spots, regulations that require connections between lots to be made. Typically, this condition is complied with by people building to the edge of their property line or providing an easement to do so in the future. Our feeling as staff is that in this particular situation, because the development on the adjoining lot is pretty much done, there is no probable nexus for that connection being made by someone other than this application right now. And there is also no real value in having a road built to the property line if it does not connect to anything. So our thought is that the LDRs that require interlot connection and are typically satisfied with building to the property line, in this case, could only be satisfied by building beyond the property line and making the connection to the existing roadway on the adjacent lot. That's staff's opinion. As our thoughts. It is ultimately, I suppose, your decision. I know that the applicant has thoughts on that matter as well. The second thing on roads, separate from the first one, is that there is some discord between the applicant and the neighbors to the north about the specifics of the access onto Heinsberg Road, the easement there, who can go in, how many cars can come in, etc. It sounds like the neighbor to the north would prefer that there is no additional traffic going through that curb cut on Heinsberg Road, and that the applicant does not feel that that is how things are going to go.
Thank you, Marty. I would like to ask you, on this map or a similar map, could you trace for me with a pink line or whatever color what roads we're talking about? Because I'm really confused, and maybe I'm the only one, but I need to understand this.
I think I might. Oh, this isn't the typical CEA plan set where there's a zoomed out version and then a zoomed way in version, is there? Oh no, there is. Okay, it's just loading slowly. Okay, so resume share. Go ahead. I will draw. You can talk.
Okay, so if you can see the blue square on the left is our project location. The road running up
I
and
don't
down.
see it. Oh, okay.
The road
Right.
running down the side of it there is Heinsberg
Yes,
in yellow.
the west side.
Thank you. Yeah. Yep. And then the road that kind of the larger one there that Marla just did in yellow is Meadowlands.
Right,
Coming off of Meadowlands, there's a little stub of a road, Randall,
right.
and then coming off of
And
that,
it dead ends.
it I believe was intended to loop back on itself to Meadowlands, but has not yet done that.
Okay.
And then coming off of that stub of Randall is another stub. It is the parking lot access for the existing Keller Williams building. It is an orange. So we are asking, well, it's staff's consideration that the regulations would be best served if the applicant were to connect to the orange stub there.
But there's another entrance. There we go. Thank you.
Yep.
What is that? What is the pink?
So the pink is a combination of both the existing road off of Heinsberg that accesses the CEA property and the property to the north, and then also the pink is the road proposed to serve this veterinary hospital, and then the last section of the pink is a potential connection from that road to
Randall.
yes, via the parking
But
lot.
there's no connection now to Randall.
That's correct.
So the public comments about the veterinary hospital and the potential vibration relate to the pink.
They relate to the pink, yes, but on the left side, they're more focused on the Heinsberg Road side.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side of the property, there is some disagreement, perhaps, or confusion, maybe about the ownership of the access to both the property to the north and the property to the south are off of one driveway
Mm-hmm.
that serves both. And then there's just maybe at this point, Dave, you know better than I, but the property owner, Marla's zooming in, the property owner to the north, the curb cut is on their property, and so they are feeling like they have some entitlement to restrict
Mm-hmm.
the amount of cars, amount of traffic that can go to the proposed veterinary hospital. That is, I guess, remains to be seen if that is true or not based on the specifics of the legal documents that govern that curb cut. But that's kind of more of their concern. They're less concerned about whether the LDRs are fulfilled by a connection to Randall. Although they would probably prefer that the property is only accessed by Randall and not by Heinsberg Road, but that's sort of a tangent.
Does everyone else understand this? Okay. All right. Thank you, Marty.
Yeah.
I did have one other kind of general question before we dive into this business, because we now have two applications in front of us where this one and the Farrell application, where you've got somebody asserting some legal right over something that's part of the sketch plan, either Holmes Road and the connector, in this case, the driveway.
Right.
How does that impact the board and what the board can do? I mean, obviously, we can't adjudicate the matter. So what do we do in those cases?
That's an interesting, I'm sorry, Marla.
Well, I'd be interested in your take on it. My take would be that the rules are the rules, and if there are existing agreements in place that preclude the applicant from meeting the rules, then it's the board's authority to deny the project.
So we would need to read the agreement and decide how we think the agreement
See,
should be
that-
applied.
That's the problem. And I've never seen it resolved in 40 years. Could you have any enlightenment on that? What happens is that various boards have said, not our problem. Well, we do what we do, and the courts and the parties do what they do, And if there's a train wreck, there's a train wreck. And that is the brilliant resolution of that question. I hope you're now as satisfied as everybody else is not, right?
So
Okay.
we would approve the application the way it's shown, and if they can't build it because of a legal dispute, that's, I guess they get to come back and find another way to get to the site.
Or they could say, we can't build it the way you're telling us we have to build it. And then you would say, okay, then, or we can't show it the way you're telling us to because
Yeah.
our legal agreements. And then you could say, okay, well, it doesn't meet the rules, denied.
That's kind of it,
Okay. So we just pick a path.
right?
Okay.
Okay.
We rule according to the LDRs, and that's it. It don't necessarily fit.
Okay.
But
Aren't you glad you came?
Yes.
Absolutely. If I may add, Frank is spot on. My understanding is most land use attorneys will say you're not a court of law, that your job is to interpret the LDRs and to apply the rules of the LDRs, and that the civil issues are essentially to be dealt with outside of yourselves. Our level of comfort is very high. We included as part of the supplemental information package the development agreement between the parties with supporting evidence on how we've complied with all of the aspects of that. So, in fact, we're well under what has been agreed upon by the parties as far as what we could do as far as bringing traffic out to Heinsberg Road. So we're very comfortable with that. What I think both parties need to hear from either staff or the board in regards to the connectivity is whether the connectivity out to Heinsberg Road can be limited in any way, putting aside the agreement, but by the LDRs. Can the connectivity concept be put aside? Obviously, we're hearing staff who wants to ensure that the connectivity is not only met as far as the letter of law, but also perhaps going beyond onto somebody else's property. So I just want to bring one other point to that particular issue of going on to somebody else's property, because staff has indicated that that ship has sailed as far as the ability for that particular short section of roadway to be extended westerly to our property line to complete the connectivity. In this particular case, point of interest is that on the lot on the northeast corner of what you're looking at right now, that's the Keller Williams building, owned by Adam Hergenrother's companies. And that particular property was permitted originally with 2 buildings. And they built the first building, and the second building was never built. They had 5 years plus 1 year to develop that. That particular permit ran out in 2020. So if they ever want to build the second building, they've got to come back to you for that approval. They have to comply with the LDRs. At that point, that's the opportunity to extend the road. But more importantly, the lot that's immediately south of them, immediately east of our lot, is undeveloped. It's in a subdivided parcel approved in 2014, waiting for the right person to come forward to develop it. And that is a very simple opportunity in regards to somebody having to comply with the LDRs. So we feel that there are still tools in your toolbox in order to ensure that incrementally this particular type of connectivity will occur. And asking somebody to do something that isn't specifically required in the LDRs and to buy somebody else's property to make connection when it isn't identified as being a traffic requirement just bothers me a little bit. So I just want to make sure that we stay within the rules and that we recognize that the opportunity for connectivity is still out there and that it will occur in time. It's just a matter of waiting for that time to occur.
I agree with that view for what it's worth.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just want to add just some of my own concerns with enforcing it, setting a precedent that then moving forward, developers would be required to make that connection on someone else's property without fully understanding what the impacts could be for that property. Especially, I'm thinking of stormwater treatment. So if the expansion requires that landowner to now obtain state permitting for additional impervious surfaces on their property, who is liable for constructing and permitting all of that as well? just something that I was thinking about.
Okay, thanks, Stephanie. Any other comments before we move on to the memo? Number one, staff recommends the board begin with the items in the memo, blah, blah, blah. Let's move on to a second comment. Staff recommends, is this yours, Marty, or more? Okay. Staff recommends the board direct the applicant to work with staff and the adjoining landowner to advance the cross lot connection prior to the next stage of review. What's your response to that?
Asked and answered.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry to be, we've answered that question. We believe that we have met the rules by bringing the connection to the property line and that we're not interested in going any further.
Okay.
And I think that's right.
Okay.
Marty, did you have anything to add on that?
No, I think, yeah, based on, I guess we sort of fleshed it out 2 weeks ago. And maybe I read the room incorrectly, but kind of felt that, there was some support from the board towards staff's interpretation of connectivity between the two lots. But if that isn't the case, that's fine. It just would be good to get a barometer from everyone right now to see. I guess we don't want to put Dave and Adam Hergenrother and us in a room if there's no reason from your end that they should, be working on something like that. If you feel that just going to the property line is fine, we want it. So you've said, Frank, that you don't need them to go past the property line. That's
my concern is this crosses into the area we were actually discussing before, which is if we don't have any power to compel the adjoining landowner, then to say to the applicant, somehow you must somehow make a deal with the adjoining landowner to get your permit under the LDRs, it's not reasonable.
Right.
If you see what I mean.
Sure. Yeah.
If we could coerce the adjoining landowner now from the current position, not in some future application, so they come up to their property line, the other guy comes in, wants to do something else later, and then we impose a connectivity requirement on him, but we can't, force them together. I don't think.
So included in the packet let me step back one step. At the last meeting, we had not been able to find anything in the land records. Dave very generously shared what he had regarding this potential connection, and that gave us some breadcrumbs to find some things in the land records. So what we found in the land records, actually what I found in the land records, because Marty was having a great time on a well-deserved vacation, is this plat. And so this is the property in question here. Oops, that was not useful. Here. And this is sort of the Keller Williams property up here. There are some easements. You can see P1 is a easement between lot 1C and 1E. Easement E15, I think that says, is an easement between East Mountain View LLC and CEA Properties LLC, and then easement E13 is a sewer easement on lot 1C to the benefit of the CEA Properties and East Mountain View lots. It does not appear that at the time of subdivision of lot 1C and 1E, the board actually required there to be an easement to the benefit of CEA Properties, though we had been hopeful because some of those plans for lot 1C showed what looked like a dotted line where that road would want to go. Like Frank said, I don't think that the board has the authority to compel lot 1C to give CEA Properties LLC an easement. At the last meeting, we had been hopeful that that easement already existed, in which case the board would have the authority to compel CEA Properties LLC to complete that connection.
But it doesn't.
I'm not aware of it.
Go ahead, Charlie.
But if 1E was to be developed, we could compel them to finish the connection, right?
Right.
I mean, and that was your point last time, is we might not be here, but.
Right.
if the LDR stands the way it is, I mean, theoretically, it would compel them to.
Right. Or as Dave said, if they were to redevelop, expand the development on Lot 1C, that's another, it's another potential nexus. Yeah.
So just to bring clarity to the agreements between Lot 1E and 1C, is they have cross easements that benefit each other, which basically allows for a common driveway that straddles the property line, and that extends all the way to the west. So whoever comes forward first has the ability to extend the road its full width all the way to the west to make the connection. So the tools are in place for either one of those parties to comply with the LDRs as it relates to extending the existing common driveway further west to the
I guess
property
I would
line.
say then that this project should involve providing an easement to the benefits of lots 1C and 1E for use of this road that's going to be constructed as part of this project.
That's a good legal question as far as who are going to be the beneficiaries of the connectivity. It's just a general question. Should it be the city? Should it be Lot C, 1E? You know, I think those are good questions that if we can get some guidance, we can certainly shape the legal documents to head in that direction.
Frank, did you have something you wanted to say? No. Okay.
I've said my piece.
Okay. All right. So I think what we're going to do is move on to number 5 of the original staff report. And this regarding the rationale for removing the 2 cottonwood trees.
So when we started this particular process 4 years ago, in the most recent effort to re-permit the planned unit development of this property, Craig Lambert did go out with Paul Connor to the property to take a look at the 2 cottonwood trees. And one of them was on its way out as it was. We continue to pick up the limbs of the tree as it falls out. So it is dying. And the other one is probably close to its full age. So at that point, we said, well, do we want to design a project knowing that the tree is either going to fall down or is going to have to be removed in a timely way? Or do we start fresh with a new palette to create something that's really exciting and not have to work around those one dead tree and one dying tree, I should say, and one other tree that's probably close to the end of its. Is there such a thing as a design life for a tree? But nonetheless, I'll let Sam speak a little bit more on that.
Yeah, another challenge that we find with the cottonwoods is as we do more and more electrification and move to air source heat pumps, I've been talking to certain vendors, and the cottonwood, when it blooms in the spring, is a real challenge for the filters. And so that's another just externality, that the cottonwoods aren't a great neighbor to the proposed use. And so as such, if Marty or Marla, if you guys could bring up the landscape plan that I shared earlier, I'd like to just give a preview of what shared Marty, a watercolor landscape plan prior to the meeting last week.
Yeah, it's in supplemental from last week.
Okay.
Anyways, it's not a finished plan, but I want to just give the board a sense of our landscape architect. We're sad to lose the trees, but we're excited about the new landscape that we're working on.
And Marla, in the alternate, we created a PDF of that for you in the email that we sent you today. If that would make it easier to pull it up.
Oh, found it.
There you go.
Perfect. So we have a walking loop in the front of our building.
So let's take a time out and get everybody oriented, because this is a
I
different
rotate it?
orientation than before.
So
Maybe
do what?
can you rotate it? There we go. Perfect. Just zoom in. Perfect. Okay, now we're the same orientation we were looking at before.
Dave's a good
So
engineer.
Heinsberg Road is over here.
Well, on the left. They're looking at
Be on the
behind you,
left.
so it's
For me, it's on the left.
on the left for them too.
Okay.
But they're opposite you.
Okay, just don't use my hand. Okay, got it.
So the T-shape of the building is predicated upon Anne and her partner's ideal program, and the way that got situated on the lot, it precluded the opportunity to keep the cottonwood trees. But by justifying it to the south, we have ample room on the north side of the building for the proposed pocket park, which has sort of 2 walking loops, many trees, and a bird garden located on the east side, which is also where the cat rooms are, because the cats like to be distracted before Anne jabs them with their
I'm
required
sorry,
vaccines.
Bring the thing in, please.
Apologize.
It's what?
So
what's
the cat exam rooms are on the east side of the building,
Okay.
which is where a bird garden is, and the idea being that the birds distract the cats while we give them their vaccines. So, anyways, that's a purposeful landscape feature that will be enjoyed by anyone out in the Meadowlands Business Park, because this will be a public amenity.
Okay.
Marty or whoever's got that magenta pencil, could you show me where the trees the arborist is concerned with are? Just indicate their location.
Yes, we're talking about 2 sets of trees right now. The 2 cottonwoods, I think, is what Marla's drawing right now.
I think they're a little bit I think they're more like right where the dog kennels are, which is the southeast corner of the building, Marla.
Southeast. So the south leg or the east leg?
East leg.
The east leg, the south side.
South side of the east leg.
Yeah, more or less right there.
Yeah, so Craig, the arborist, he's not concerned about the loss of those trees. His comment in blue is about 2 other trees.
Yes.
Well, that's what I wanted to know. What are the trees that the arborist?
2 maple trees, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So we can cut to that chase too.
Or are they the ones you're saying? That's what I was confused about. Are they the ones you're saying are both A, dead, and B, dying?
No.
All right.
That's
Well,
the
that
first
would
set
be
of 2
a
trees.
thing
Yeah.
for the arborist to be
Cottonwoods,
concerned about, right?
No, there's actually 2 different comments in the staff report. One talks about the cottonwoods that we just touched base on the south end of the building. And then off to the north. What happened?
Oh, I thought we were going to show the other trees.
Oh, that's fine.
If we can
Maybe.
get
Okay,
the other
that's
one.
good. So, can the north end of the main parking lot, if you can highlight that for us. There are 2 maple trees. Nope, that's the side lot. The main, there we go, that's the main lot. And those are the 2 maple trees right there that Craig has indicated he's concerned about the proposed extension of the walkway system from east to west. And he wanted us, in plan view, it looks dire. In real life, it looks a lot better than it really is on paper. So I'd like to invite Craig to come out and take a look at those specifically as far as how we can still integrate a 5-foot walk as we go past those trees.
I'm sorry, you could integrate the walk without harming the trees? Is that what you're saying?
I think we can get the sidewalk past those trees in an acceptable manner. But that's on us to figure that out. But I think it's a good point that's been brought up, and we will work on that detail before we come back to you.
And that's the whole purpose of this being a sketch plan.
There we go.
Okay, let's move on to comment number 7, which refers to the street type. Staff recommends the board discuss with the applicant which street type appears to best fit this project.
So, what the typology of the streets that we feel best fits this particular goal of connectivity in relationship to what is close to the street or not close to the street is actually called a neighborhood street narrow. Points of interest in regards to Randall Street. We talked about this particular street that's off to the east that has been constructed. Public Works actually asked us to design that in a way that did not have any curbs. And the neighborhood narrow street that we're proposing doesn't have any curbs either. And it basically allows for easier maintenance as far as snow, reduces concentrated stormwater collection and disposal, And we just felt that that was a better area adjacent to an open space to carry the day. So those were our thoughts in regards to how to attach a specific design requirement to the project.
Questions? Issues?
The existing shared, no, I'm sorry. So the existing shared drive and access to your, or to CEA's parking lot has curbs. So that it would be a transition, just no curbs to open pavement.
That is correct. And they do the same thing as we move further east, where their parking lot, common drive is curbed, and then it goes into an uncurbed future public street.
There's catch basins in the curbed area to catch stormwater.
They do.
Okay.
Okay. Let's move on to number 8. This is regarding site amenities and the civic space, street front open space, and the snippet park.
Right. So one thing that's morphed over time, as Cynthia Knopf, the landscape architect, has put this together in coordination with the applicant and Sam, is that it's grown in size. So it's close to 15,000 square feet as far as the surface area, and we felt that once you get into something of that particular size, that perhaps a pocket park was a better goal as far as features and the like to tie the project to. So that's at least our thought, rather than limiting ourselves something to the 4,000, 5,000 square foot area. We really do want to create as much open space as possible, and the pocket park seemed to make the most sense only because there really aren't any other open space areas in this particular part of the Meadowland Business Park, and this would represent a larger area that everybody surrounding it could benefit from. So that's why the pocket park seemed to make sense for us.
Questions, comments? Okay. Number 9. This is about the Department of Public Works comments. Staff recommends the board discuss the comments of the DPW with the applicant.
We don't have any issues with what Tom has brought up. It will take some talking in order to basically bring him up to speed on what was master planned, what wasn't master planned in this particular area, keeping in mind that the Meadowland Business Park was not a PUD, it was a straight subdivision. It has many features of what a PUD would look for, but nonetheless, it doesn't have many of the planning components that would be required today. So I'd like to take the time to meet with Tom and get him online with that, and whatever he recommends as far as what makes sense, then we will proceed with. One of them, which is extending the walkways from the new building all the way to the west to Heinsberg Road, is one that we will adopt moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Number 10, stormwater treatment. Applicant must work with stormwater section to resolve these issues.
Yeah, this is a complicated stormwater management system that relies on an existing permit with the state of Vermont that ultimately was part of the city's approval process, but also seeks to augment that with fully complying stormwater components. So I'll have to sit down with Marisa and bring her up to speed on that. I don't want to try to bore you. No, I won't be boring you, Stephanie. But no, we would like to be able to have that opportunity to meet with her and get her up to speed and figure out if there's additional information, additional mitigation required to be fully compliant.
So you know what the concerns are, and you will run with them.
Yes.
Okay.
So are we unequivocally directing, I want to pick up that language, are we unequivocally directing the applicant to coordinate with the stormwater section to establish a path forward prior to the next stage of review?
I would think we are.
And I would take that as a stipulation. Absolutely.
Okay, number 11. This is regarding conformity with the 2024 comprehensive plan.
So right now, staff has identified the fact that there are certain components within the LDRs that make reference back to the community plan, and you have a new one coming into effect shortly. And what the important thing is that what is in that particular document is either consistent or inconsistent with what we're proposing to do here. Things that are new in the industrial open space district is that there's a higher goal of including residential development. Obviously, it's one that's not in the plan right now, but at the same time, yeah, I guess that's probably the biggest conflict that we see right now.
I have a question about, and I'm not sure, I'm asking, I could check it out. But,
Go ahead.
what is the, I mean, there's frequently a timing issue in zoning matters, application versus adoption of new material. I forget what the rule is. Does anybody know? And the comprehensive plan is not yet adopted. Is your application submitted? Where are we? Are we a sketch?
Sketch.
Okay. So what's the trigger for locking in the applicable law?
Preliminary plat. You have to have a complete preliminary plat application in order to vest your rights. Correct.
So this, I mean, not that I saw anything particularly egregious in the new comprehensive plan, but I just wanted to flag for you, if you didn't know, that we do have a new one coming on the books. Probably around the same time you'll be submitting for preliminary plat. Yeah.
Very close. Correct.
Yeah.
So have you been looking at the intended plan or the proposed plan?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have been. It was good reading.
Assuming it's going to apply, you're going to have a problem?
I don't believe so. I don't see the housing as being mandatory. I see it as a new opportunity for the development in the industrial open space district, because under today's conditions, it's actually frowned upon. You know, when you look at the regulations and the allowable density of residential in this particular district, it pretty much says we don't want any. We want this to be commercial industrial. So this is a turn of events in regards to what new opportunities there are for development of the undeveloped portions of the IO district.
Well, and keep in mind too that the comprehensive plan is not the regulations, right? The comprehensive plan is what is used to guide how the regulations are written. So until such time as the LDRs are amended to reflect new objectives in the comprehensive plan, they will stand as they are. The planning process right now is looking at a few amendments to the land development regulations. I don't think anything that's in the works right now is dramatic with respect to this application. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's mostly Act 47 stuff, and yeah.
But that's probably more important as far as understanding where those proposed LDR changes occur, because they often attach to an application. You can actually have two different set of regulations you have to comply with depending on the timing, and you have to comply with the worst case of the two. So long story short, that's homework that we need to do. Marla does a nice job of summarizing how the comprehensive plan really works. However, there is some language within the LDRs that ties back, and it always begs the question is, how serious is it? We will still demonstrate that we are headed in the right direction of both documents, the LDRs and the future land development community plan, comprehensive plan.
Okay, moving on to number 12. This is regarding the noise from the dog park or the dog run. And how can we be sure that you will comply with the noise ordinance?
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, so that fenced-in area in the drawings is not a dog park. That is a place that we walk one dog at a time that's being hospitalized. So they're out there for 5-10 minutes being walked by a staff member on the leash. And the fence is there really for protection. God forbid a dog pulls the leash out of your hand.
Right.
They're still contained and not getting hit by a car on Heinsberg Road. So really no noise coming from there. Most of our hospitalized patients as well do receive some anti-anxiety medications coming through the door. That's part of our fear-free practice that we've adopted at our current hospital that will continue with at this hospital. And, you know, barking is mostly a stress response. So if you bring that anxiety down, you're really not having a lot of that either.
Okay.
So I would not expect a lot of noise coming from our building at all.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Thank you. I guess this would be a good time to ask for public comment from anyone who wishes to comment. Sure, John.
Could we just take a look at some of the information that they presented as far as parking and trips and
Sure.
I know there's some stuff earlier on and just wanted to make sure I was reading that correctly. I guess my first, I see the agreement and have you had any further conversations with the property owners to the north of you?
So when I first spoke with Brand Larson about the project, we were on the phone for about 45 minutes, and I followed up and shared this information with him as far as that's concerned. Have we had any further discussions since then? No, the answer is no.
Okay. Maybe you can explain. I'm not real familiar with looking at this, so I'm really not real clear. So they have 2 cut sheets here for animal hospital, veterinary clinic, and the other for small office building. How can the entering and exit numbers be different? Just 40% entering, 60% exiting?
So it depends on the time of day. So for example, if you're going to work in the morning, most of your traffic will be entering. Might be 80% entering and maybe 20% leaving. So this is just, it's either an AM, trip distribution or it's a PM trip distribution.
Okay.
For the entire day, it should be 50-50 unless you're working really late. So.
Okay, so this is just from the 4 to 6
That's
time period.
correct. Right.
Okay, and then we're picking off the red numbers there to get what they estimate to be the total trips for both buildings combined.
Correct.
Okay. And then there's a restriction in here for the size of vehicle that can come through now?
Yes.
And that's not going to be a problem for either construction or for ongoing operation of the veterinary practice?
So we won't have any, under operations end of things, we won't have any vehicles larger than what already services the Vermont Eye Laser Vision building. As far as the construction end, we've worked out an agreement with the Lot 1E owner to the east to come in off of Randall Street and to access this site so that we won't be utilizing the shared access off of Heinsberg Road.
Okay.
Good questions, John. Any other?
I think that covers mine. Thank you.
Okay, good. So let's see what public comments we might have. Any public comments? Anyone here? Anyone online?
Yes, this is Tom Dowen.
Okay.
I'm one of the neighbors to the north, 1100 Heinsberg Road.
Okay, Tom, go ahead.
One question I had was the footprint of the building seems to violate the view easement with East Mountain LLC to the north and northeast of the building. Any comment on that?
I'm sorry. It seems to violate the what?
There's a view easement between that property and the East Mountain View LLC, the 1100 Heinsberg Road. It was part of the negotiations for the shared access to the 2 buildings that are there now.
But that was a private agreement, was it not?
Yes, it is.
Okay, in that case, it's outside our purview.
It's what?
Outside our purview, as we discussed, similar to what we discussed before.
But that's where we did have communications with Rand Larson, where Mark Nagley met directly with Rand, and all indications were that Rand had signed off on the proposed building. It actually has been redesigned to be much lower than with the original proposal, and that all be in the background. That was all done in good faith.
I have no knowledge of these discussions. I wasn't notified of this building plans or the initial meeting. So I'm just trying to catch up as I wasn't notified of any of this.
That's fair. And Mr. Dowan, we're happy to meet with you to try to continue the communications.
Second question is there any application required to be filed with VTrans as far as Heinsberg Road, which is a state road, and this certainly is a new and different ingress egress for this property?
If the board would like me to answer that question, I can answer it very
I
briefly.
think that would be helpful.
So the board cannot provide final approval for a project without a letter of intent from VTrans acknowledging that they intend to approve the project. So yes, the applicant will be required to coordinate with VTrans
Down the road.
Down the road.
Right, okay.
I'm sorry. That's still 116 in that area? It's still a state highway in that area? Okay, just checking.
So did you catch that, Mr. Dowan?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
The last question I had is, has there been a traffic study done?
No, the traffic study has not been done yet, but there will be one commissioned.
That's the only questions I have.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, hearing none. Do you have a question, Charlie?
The first bullet item we discussed was granting a waiver for master plan review. Did we do that?
No. So it's just sketch, so non-binding. So you indicated that you wouldn't require master plan review, but
Okay.
there hasn't been anything formal. No formal step has been taken.
So I guess the question is, would someone like to move that we close this hearing?
Just a sketch. So if there's consensus,
That's right.
you can conclude
Shall
the
we
meeting.
conclude the hearing?
Meeting.
I'll get it one day. Okay. Thank you, and we will see you back here next time.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You an Eagles fan?
What's that?
You an Eagles fan?
No.
Oh.
I'm a New England fan. Yeah. I was born here. Raised here. Here being New Hampshire, but same.
Yeah.
I'm going to excuse myself. Pardon? I'm going to excuse myself for the evening and cede my chairpersonship to Quinn. And I hope everyone has a good Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Don.
Take care, Don.
All right, so continuing with item number 8 on the agenda, we have continued site plan application SP 23036 of Engineers Construction Inc. for the after-the-fact approval for contractor's yard in alteration of grade. The project consists of authorizing the continued use of a contractor's yard to place fill materials at 24 Berard Drive. Who's here for the applicant? You can come right up to the table here. Excellent. So I'll just have you first introduce yourselves. When you turn on your mic, it'll turn from dull green to bright green. There's a push right in the middle.
How's that?
Excellent. Thank you.
I'm Ken Pigeon. I am it's an LLC, K&S Properties LLC, and I'm a member owner.
Okay.
I'm Jesse Carswell, an engineer at Krebs and Lansing Consulting Engineers.
Great. And I think, do you guys have anyone online speaking for you? Or just you two?
I believe just the two of us.
Yeah.
Okay. And I believe you guys were both here last time and we swore you
Right.
in, so we don't need to do that again, or is it each time?
Nope, you're good.
Okay. So with that, we will move with the staff report.
So the last hearing, the board had some questions about the access drive on the south of the property. The applicant agreed to work on that, and they did, and so they have a new proposal, which was in your packet. There's also, somewhat embarrassing for us, a second issue that we only identified later, which is that there is on the official map, which state law requires all projects to comply with an official map. There's a planned public park and open space is the terminology that's used on the east side of this lot. And so we had sort of a very apologetic and somewhat panicked meeting with the applicant to sort that out, and they have done an excellent job sorting that out. So that is not highlighted in red in the staff report, but it is all described in there for you.
Okay. So we will pick up with the updated design. So maybe it would be helpful if you just give an overview of the updates that have been done. I don't know if there's a plan that would be helpful to bring up. So just chatting through the revised entrance and the truck turning radius. If you want to just give an overview of what you guys have done.
Yep, sorry. Yes, we shifted the proposed entrance about 170 feet further to the north after we met on site with the Cliftons, who are a budding landowner, across from where the existing southern access drive was. So we were initially going to try and widen that existing entrance and put a radius on it so that a triaxle dump truck could make the turn. It would be an entrance only, and we staked it out in the field and did the field test with the dump truck, and they could do it, but we came to an agreement that we would just move the entrance further to the north so that it wasn't essentially right across from the same entrance as the Cliftons. And so we also are proposing to use this as a two-way, an entrance and an exit access drive. And so this, the access drive plan just shows, it's just the modeling of a lowboy trailer, which would be the largest vehicle that would need to turn into the site, and to do so without having to cross the center line, which was kind of the issue from the previous access drive, in order to make the turn.
And it seems in the staff report, it's noted that the entrance in this turning would require 7.2 mile per hour speed to accomplish this. Am I reading this correctly? And so is that typical? Is that consistent with what trucks would be doing to enter here?
Yeah, I think they'll naturally slow down to what's comfortable and reasonable for the speed and the geometry there. So I don't see that as a problem they're not going to go too fast through there.
And then when we did the previous field test at the southern drive before, the dump truck driver there said he was able to do it easily at 10 miles an hour. Now that's not the same vehicle. This is a larger vehicle, but yeah, I think that's a reasonable speed to enter into it.
How natural is it for the truck drivers to want to swing into the oncoming lane to give themselves a greater curvature so they can take? Just kind of seems like if you're driving a truck, that would almost be second nature to do that regardless.
I noticed a couple weeks ago that even around the corner, normal vehicles making a turn were doing the same thing. So it's probably kind of, you know, what they might want to do, but they won't need to anyway.
As I'm looking at the plan, haven't they mitigated? I mean, you can't control human nature, I suppose, but haven't they mitigated against that by moving away from the curve? Because there was kind of wasn't there sort of a blind curve or a semi-blind curve, and that was
Yes.
a major part of the problem. I'm kind of looking in the direction of the complainant, I think, if I remember who that is. Well, I kind of do, but I don't know if it's out of order. Any objection to having your neighbor speak to the issue at this point?
It's what we all want to hear, right?
I mean, there's only a few of us here. Yeah, what's your view of the new plan?
Hold on. If you're gonna talk, I just want to. Is it okay to have? Is that like against protocol, or is it okay?
No, I think that there's only the one real issue
So,
here,
yeah.
so we might as well move on. But yeah, you do need to use the microphone.
So yeah, you sit there or up there, whatever's best. Great. And there's a push in the middle of the microphone. It'll turn from dull green to bright green, and just state your name.
David Clifton.
Thanks.
So where that's relocated now, if a truck driver decided to use the other lane, everyone in both directions can see that that's going to happen before they come across the truck.
That was my
So
point.
it's a huge improvement. My concern was mostly that, and also keeping people from exiting, though they're not supposed to exit. You know, so in this way they can do whatever they want and nothing's in the way. But you know what a truck driver is going to do is, you know, it probably depends on the traffic that's going on there. You know, there's no speed limit on that road, so what does that make it? 35 if it's not
25.
posted.
25.
25. So I mean, I've been there for 35 years, and I just learned that today. So I'm not sure, you know, what they'll be doing, but this way everyone can see what they're, you know, what's going on there before it happens.
So it sounds like the core concern really has been addressed, and there's going to be human vagaries that you can't really do anything about, short of widening the road by 75 yards or something. I think that's slight exaggeration. All right.
The line of sight is just been solved.
All right. So my summation would be we're good on the point. Yes? So is there something else as long as you're here?
I'll get my orders here. So Mary's just wondering what happens to the other entrance. Because, you know, they'll choose to take the shortest path of resistance.
You can't ask them a question. What happens to the other entrance?
We put some notes in the application about removing the existing gravel entrance and putting a continuous curb through, and then doing some, seed mulch and restore the area so it's not something that we could actually exit from.
All right, so we've consolidated the movement in and out into this new, wider, good line of sight driveway.
Right.
We've done a great job. I congratulate us.
It was a team effort.
They're very easy to work with, so it all worked out very well.
Thank you, sir.
So I think that addresses the kind of part 2 of this staff comment as well, as far as the one way, because we're having the one entrance that's 2 ways.
Yeah, my question here was, Marty, if you can flip back to the plan, this is really nitpicking. If, like, no one's going north from here, so why does it have a giant curb radius on the north side, right? If you're leaving, it's a dead-end road. It's always going to be a dead-end road because it's the Winooski River. There's like an auto body shop, which, you know, could change use someday, and maybe there'll be need for people to leave this site and go north, but I don't think it's very likely. So nitpicky, could that curb radius be smaller and remove fewer trees? Or have less pavement, you know, bring it down to 15 feet or something.
A 15-foot radius.
But it's up to the board. If you like symmetry, you know, over
North side.
impervious surface, then that's fine.
Yeah, I think since part of getting to this safety concern was removing some trees that wasn't part of the original plan, if there is a way to decrease the radius and save a few trees, I would like to hear your response and thoughts on that.
Yes, I mean, it's a low boy wouldn't most likely need to make a large turn and go north, but it's possible that like a dump truck still could. So you could reduce the radius. I think I kind of looked at that quickly to maybe like a 25-foot radius. I don't know how much that would, that would reduce it somewhat, but you still need the width, right? You still need that 30-foot width, kind of where the cursor is now.
Well,
So I
what
don't know
is
if
the
you'd really-
demand to go north? I guess that's a paraphrase Marla's question. What need do you have for trucks exiting there to go north?
I don't think we would need one typically.
That's where the question's coming from. Is it kind of seems like nothing's going to make that turn north because nowhere to go.
Right.
So what's the concern, that you don't want the lip unnecessarily wide?
Yeah.
Is that the idea? Right.
More impervious coverage.
More
My only
impervious.
other question, possibly counterpoint, would be: does it do anything negative to sight lines? If you do that to see oncoming traffic that's coming southbound while somebody is trying to get out of that driveway, if you narrow that radius and don't take out as much vegetation. If it doesn't negatively impact the sight lines, then I would agree with Marla that there's no point in putting in impervious coverage we don't need.
But you could still reduce the impervious coverage and keep the tree cutting if necessary for sightlines.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think we'd be flexible on that, on the north side.
Sure.
Whatever makes sense to the board.
So if we wanted to see a revised site plan, is
I
that
think this
something?
is something that could be a condition.
Okay, sounds good. So it sounds like it, unless anyone else wants to, it sounds like the board would be interested in seeing what you could put forward in that respect in maintaining sight lines, but decreasing impervious surface as much as possible with that turn radius. Is that correct, board?
to the amount practical.
To the mark, yeah, we can word a condition. Okay. So I think with that, that's all we had. Marla made the points about the official city map, but unless anyone on the board had questions about that.
And you guys are good with it as written.
I'm sorry.
The comments about the official map. You didn't have any questions about that section of the staff report.
Yeah, the irrevocable offer of dedication.
Yep.
Or to be conveyed. So yeah, we're good with that.
With that, I will just, any additional public comments from you all? And no one online, I assume?
Is there just gonna be one entrance in and out? This one entrance, like there's a north entrance and a south entrance right now.
At the cul-de-sac,
Right.
I guess how do we show that, Jesse? For right now, we have it in place.
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously we'll stay there until we done. I think we would have it as a auxiliary entry and exit. I think the first one would become the default one.
So how long do you think it'll take for that to be workable and the other one closed?
The south one closed.
Yeah, I'm thinking we can close. I think it's kind of mostly closed now, right? Didn't get down
They've
there.
been using it in both directions all the time.
Well, I think we still got some access. It's kind of limited on the cul-de-sac side right now.
It's just easier for them to do it. So I almost took a picture the other day because it was like a dirt road, going out there. I mean, they were just both directions were in the other lane. But I realized that you guys were just trying to work through it, so we're yelling and screaming about stuff, but I don't know if you can get this done before the frost, goes, or with all this, like, it depends on all the permissions and.
Or we're looking at
Right.
springtime or.
Yeah.
So sorry, I'm realizing that you guys aren't talking to the microphone, so just for the benefit of our note taker and if anyone is online, the folks, commenters are just asking about timeline. Fair question. I think for our decision tonight, you're welcome to respond, but it's nothing that impacts what we need to decide this evening. So I'll let you, if you have a response to that, go ahead, but then
Well, we would need site plan approval first, I think, right? And once you obtain that, then we need to get a curb cut permit in order to install the new access drive. And once we have those things in place, then we can install it.
all right. And anything else?
No, but
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, of course.
We'll be eager to get it done.
Yeah,
too.
yeah, I'm sure you guys are trying to get it done, right? All right, with that, I would welcome a motion to close this application. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Abstained. And I think we're all set. You're all free to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll move to agenda item number 9. So our minutes weren't available, and so we will move to last agenda item, other business, which is our 2024 schedule. And staff provided us with an excellent color-coded proposed schedule.
Yeah, so Marty's just pulled that up on the screen. Historically, well, in the way back before 2018, the board would meet on the same night as council if council had a funny meeting that was bumped to a Tuesday. Council bumps to Tuesdays when there's a Monday holiday. And the board would just meet at the same time. This was a pain in the neck when we were in the other building because we would have to move to the police station and then, we couldn't have a minutes taker and we couldn't have town meeting TV. Now we're living in, modern times and we can have town meeting TV, attend both. I confirmed with them. And the minutes can be done from the recording. We don't have to not conflict with council. That being said, if there's an item of interest on the council agenda that people want to go to and people also want to go to the DRB, that's not really fair to the general public. So I spoke with Jessie, who's the staff person for council, and she said, given that there are 7 this year, maybe it makes sense to do some of them overlapping and some of them not. We try to set the meeting schedule well in advance. Applications, I wouldn't want to change any dates nearer to the meeting than 4 weeks out. So it's really not possible to know like in advance when there might be a big night or a small night. But this is just a particularly big year for conflicts. I would start right off the bat by saying town meeting day. The board for 30 years met on town meeting day, and the city clerk would run into the room and say, here's the results of the elections. So that's not a big deal. That's not a conflict with council. So March 6th is the one that I would recommend keeping on March 5th as a Tuesday. Tuesday, June 18th is only a conflict if council decides to not meet on Juneteenth. Last year they met on Juneteenth and had it be like a celebration of Juneteenth. So we can't say for certain what they're going to do, but that one may not be a conflict. I would recommend keeping that one as well as the regular Tuesday meeting. So that knocks us down to 5. I don't know.
Marla, this is Sue. I have the city council schedule and it shows them meeting on Tuesday that week.
Okay, thanks, Sue.
Yep.
So potential conflict on that one. So I guess that brings us back up to 6 potential conflicts. I would like to see, we all set our lives around Tuesday night meetings. I certainly personally set my life around Tuesday night meetings. I would like to see a couple of them change, but what does the board want to do?
My initial thought is if there's 6, let's keep 3 and change 3. I don't particularly have any preference which ones those are. I'm trying to think. I know we've just had some applications we're seeing currently are quote unquote bigger nights. So I don't know if we're likely to continue to see those early in the year, or, you know, some of those applications are sketch master plans, so obviously they could come up later in the year too. So no decision, but other board members, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I guess 3 and 3 kind of feels right to me. I think of it just more of like traveling for holidays. So like around New Year's, people are more likely to take a longer weekend. So pushing that to Wednesday allows people a little bit more time to come back from a long weekend. Same thing with like, you know, Labor Day. But other than that, I don't really have.
I'd echo, yeah, I think maybe we keep January 3rd, September 4th as 2 of them that we keep as Wednesday. And then
Let me just remind myself October 16th, what holiday that is.
okay.
Because that might be like Rosh Hashanah or something, which puts me and Frank
That's
out.
Indigenous Peoples Day.
October 16th, yep. Monday, October 14th is Indigenous Peoples Day. So we would be meeting on the 15th. Why does it say 16th?
The council moved theirs to Tuesday, so we would move ours to Wednesday.
Right, thank you. Phew. Okay. Yeah, no conflict with Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur this year. They're Wednesdays and Fridays. And then Eid, no conflict with either Eid this year either. It's a Tuesday that's not a DRB Tuesday, and then the other Eid is a non-DRB or non-council Monday.
And so, Marla, just to clarify, you said when the council did a celebration for Juneteenth, was that a meeting? Or I'm just thinking if that's more likely, it wasn't a celebration like in this room.
It was in this room.
It
Yeah.
was, okay. So
So that's the other thing is Jesse and I would coordinate like a couple weeks before the meeting and decide who gets this
Who's
room and
big,
who gets
okay.
the room upstairs, whoever's expecting the more members of the public.
Gotcha.
Just plan for lots of work that night.
Yeah.
Also point out November 5th is federal elections, presidential this year. Does that make a difference?
I don't think.
Well, you'll have to vote. You'll have to vote during the day.
Voted by then, but I just want to flag it up there.
All right, so I think we have.
Okay, so we're gonna keep the first January meeting and the first September meeting as the Wednesdays. Do we want to conflict with council on June 18th? And then go ahead and meet on town meeting day. So that's 2 and 2.
And then do we anticipate those, like some of our bigger projects, would they be extending until maybe the 17th of January?
Yeah, I think that's what Farrell had indicated.
So maybe keep that one as Wednesday just so people can attend both.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because at least we know we can anticipate that.
And then, it's something. The Wednesdays being clustered, I think, is not unhelpful. So our Januaries and the September.
So it'll be January, 1st January, 2nd January, and Labor Day will be on Wednesdays, and everything else will be on Tuesdays. Okay.
Good.
Okay. Phew. Thank you very, very much. I'm impressed by how well you were able to keep track of that. I was struggling to stay afloat, so thank you. I will publish that, if not tomorrow, early next week.
Excellent. And I think with that, we've wrapped our agenda. No formal ending. All right. That's all.